coached a lot of really successful teams throughout the years, including Damwon, T1, BLG, DRX, Jiejie. So certainly a good person to have on their side, and maybe this can be, you know, the start of something of him being in maybe a bigger role than he originally was.
Indeed, and we'll see what that's going to mean for the squad. As we jump on in right here, is just going to be that first pick of the Pantheon for Tyrion. He's had a lot of focus gone into him, 2 first picks for him, and I like the Pantheon. It gives him a lot of options to get very aggressive into these early lanes. It gives him a lot of flexibility on roaming around the rest of the map. We could potentially see Karis also paired up on something he can roam around on a lot as well. The Talia, the Rise potential options. The response out of Waybo is going to be to match that as well, pick themselves up this Nocturne. Now, they banned away the Orianna, so they can't pull that combo out for themselves.
So what will it be here alongside this pickup? Something with the Annie might be an option here for Xiaohu, but it will be just a support being selected by the side of Weibo. Hong going to get his hands on Lulu. So now we see WE go into potentially different territory. It would make sense to lock their bot lane here, but with how their bot lane has been playing, maybe you want to save that until later on in the draft. Or you just take away the pairing that is typically associated with the Lulu in the Yunara. Still options like the Aphelios available for Elk, or they just want to go something like Corki Nami, that will work too.
Yeah, Corki Nami, you can pick yourself up the Lucian as well if you want to get like uber aggressive. I do prefer the Corki, I think, especially alongside the Pantheon. It gives you that little bit of frontlining that you really need to be able to play around. And WE, they are going to lock themselves in. I like that out of About and Erha. I think it does make you pause for a second about blocking in the Yunara, but it is just so strong in and of itself at the moment, and so strong alongside the Lulu, and that will round out the early couple of picks. For Weibo, they're going to be all about these team fights, getting these Yunara into these fights and seeing what you can do. For WE, the front-to-back team fight is something they want to play around, but also they want to be looking for that pick potential. Both of these junglers, pick potential and early ultis, are going to be really key.
As we head into that second phase of bans, it will be the Yunara for Elk. 2-8 on it this season, so surprisingly a pickup that has not been super successful for Weibo, but really hasn't been super successful in terms of win rate throughout the board. I think something that Slayer, who will be casting our next series today, often says is that Yunara Lulu is strong, but it loses to the other powerful 2v2s in the laning phase. Corki Nami going to be that, so it'll be all about scaling for Elk and Weibo as we prepare for the end of this game to draft. We see the mid laners being taken away, the Annie that I initially mentioned, as well as Karis' Azir.
And now you're really just looking at what you can do for these solo laners from WE to just keep them in a good spot. Now you've got yourself the Corki Nami Pantheon. You know the kind of team fights you're looking for. You need some frontline. You need somebody to be able to just provide you some lockdown CC. The problem is that Keep has not been particularly good on any of these available champions, right? The Scion just sort of slipping through, the Cassante as well. Things he hasn't been able to find too much power on. He will lose his Jace as well if they wanted to go for a more poke potential composition. So it feels like you're just going to have to grab yourself some kind of tanky top laner right here, and it's not been the best look so far for WE.
Final ban will be the Gnar against Zika. Trying to open up some probably safer possibilities for Cube. Already, WE have set up a strong bottom side of the map with the Corki Nami. You'd imagine that Tyrion would want to play around that again, just like they did to find some success in game number 1. Maybe leave some more safer options for their solo lanes. There's the Scion that we were talking about. Not been great for Cube, but hasn't been great for Zika either.
Nope.
A safe option at the very least. If you're going to have to blind pick, leave your last pick over to Xiaohu, your captain. And that will be the choice for now.
And I really like it. You just needed some tanky front line to be able to play around, play behind. I think you want to just match this into a tank-on-tank matchup up in the top lane for Cube. Even if he loses the laning phase, you can still be useful at least. I think the Cassante is probably going to be their best option overall. It gives you some flank potentials as well. We'll see what the mid lane lock-in is going to be. You need something pretty safe overall. The Ahri makes the most sense. It's something Karis has played a lot of throughout his splits and is going to lock that one in. It ups your pick potential for this composition, although it does make the straight-up team fighting a lot harder to play around.
Now this would be interesting. You know, Cube has been down on his luck. Would you want to play something aggressive to get back in the driver's seat, feel a little bit more confident about his play?
I want to see it. Do I think it would be good? Not really, but I do want to see it overall. I mean, this would be really interesting. The Rek'Sai's been sort of falling off recently. No, it is just going to be the Cassante. It makes a lot more sense. I think it works the best for this overall composition. You've now got some good pick potential out of this composition, but also these team fights, you at least have something nice and tanky to step up and capitalize on any pulls that you do manage to get out of Karis with the charms. So for Waybo, into the Ahri right here, you are completely unlocked to kind of play just whatever you want to right here as Xiaohu. He's loved to get heavy on the roaming, but there isn't too much available left for the roaming other than, yeah, the Twisted Fate, and I really like this pick.
So that's the draft for Waybo. It's an old but good pick up for Xiaohu. You know, Twisted Fate kind of re-emerging a bit in the meta, especially alongside the Nocturne, going to have really strong semi-global presence, make their way and impact either side lane. You imagine the bot lane going to be the focus for WE, and so Waybo will always have a good way to respond to that if it'll be Tyrion the one to strike first.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a 60% win rate at the moment in the LPL. Has been picked a good 9-10 times, I think. And people have been finding, yeah, some pretty decent success on it. And I really like it paired up alongside this Nocturne, as you said. You can now just roam around the rest of the map. And especially because as Waybo, I'm not worried about these solo lanes, really. I'm not particularly worried about Karis being able to win this lane for himself on the Ahri. I'm not particularly worried about Q being able to do anything on the Cassante top lane at all. So instead, let's focus with some extra roaming potential down into the bottom lane and not fall behind in that lane. Kind of the only place that WE were able to get anything going in the previous game.
But perhaps an opportunity for Team WE here. Waybo already up a game. They're picking some champions that they have not had as much success on this season compared to some of their counterparts. And WE have a pretty standard but easy to execute team composition. Maybe one of their better chances here against the team that is currently in 7th place in Group Ascend to pick up a win with their new jungler in Tyrion at the helm. He has Jiejie and Waybo to deal with. Again, another great performance from him on the Weibo Gaming side. Both teams looking to rebound. Will it be Waybo to finish off the sweep, or WE to pick up their first win in over 2 months?
Okay. The WE fans are still pretty loud, and yeah, they've got a lot more to cheer for so far during this split. A 2-0 right here versus WE would put them on the path to success going on forwards. A team that has, throughout the last couple of years so far, been starting pretty slow in their regular seasons, really ramp up towards the playoffs. Sometimes they don't ramp up far enough to make it too far. Sometimes they're able to really explode onto the Rift as the playoffs start, and that could well be the beginnings of it right here.
Right, you remember the last couple of years, 2023, 2024, Waybo never really were in like a top tier position in the LPL until the regional finals, when they somehow clutched out an opportunity to go to Worlds, and they ended up making their way into that international competition. Didn't necessarily do that in 2025, because they fell short in the regional finals, but top 3 finish here. It's kind of the same narrative, right? Waybo were like 500 going into the playoffs and end up bouncing around. And now we see potentially their bot lane getting targeted. Tyrion goes for a 3-camp, and now is immediately looking for a play down on the bottom lane. Pops the E for the extra move speed. Finds a stun onto Elk. Already forces him to flash away, but Ar's going to follow as well. One more Q from Tyrion should do it, and it's Erha once again picking up first blood. Now Hong's going to be forced to flash away, and the bot lane from Team WE going to strike again in Game 2.
Takes a couple of summon spells to do it, but it works really well right there for WE, and I love to see that early aggression out of Tyrion. We talked about how this bottom lane is going to be the powerhouse for them. This is where they want to be playing around as much as possible, and especially into Elk and Hong, playing this power duo of a bot lane, putting them behind early is a great game plan, well executed.
So another good start for WE, but don't want to get too hopeful just yet, Bloxxer, because we remember what happened.
Hey, let's take the victories when they come, right? For WE, very little is going right for them.
Another good thing, the solo laners for Waybo, not necessarily champions that are in great positions to really snowball the leads that they were able to snowball in Game 1, right? It's not Mbessa for Zika this time, it's Sion. Not going to be a LeBlanc for Xiaohu, it's the TF. So a lot more of a supportive pickup here. As now, it'll be Jiejie just really out of position. 3 members of Team WE are looking for this play around the crab. Jiejie forced to flash away. Notably, Tyrion just level 3 because he went for that early gank. And Xiaohu forces Karis out as well. The gold card going to land onto the rookie jungler. And now Xiaohu is starting to cook up a little bit here as well. Tyrion no longer has his flash available. Gonna face check this bush. Gonna be met immediately by two members of Team WE. The charm just barely enough of the mana pool, but Xiaohu has none of it. The wild cards come up clean. And they take down Tyrion for the first kill of the game for Waybo.
And that's what forever worth of experience will do for you right there. I mean, he knew that he just had that one right there. As long as he lands that gold card onto Tyrion, was just going to be able to walk away. I mean, an early game Ahri Pantheon. They do a lot of damage when the Pantheon's able to land that full combo, but had already used everything prior. It's pretty long cooldowns coming through on that champion at this point in the game. Well played right there. Out of Xiaohu to sort of take what was a decent early kill out of WE and sort of snap that momentum in half. But still, you give that early pressure down onto your bottom lane, which is nice. I do just worry for the continued well play of WE if Xiaohu's able to get himself a kill at this point early on. I mean, nice flashing tip. He's just good. He's just clean with it.
There's an interesting path from Tyrion to open things up. He went Raptors, Wolves, Gromp to get level 3, skipping both of his major buffs, and because of that was severely underleveled, even though the gank ended up working out successfully. And Jiejie, after killing Tyrion, was able to run straight into the WB side of the jungle and take that blue buff away. So this is still the first spawn of the red buff that is now available, and Jiejie is looking to contest both that and this Raptor camp that has once again respawned. Currently out of vision, but Jiejie is going to face check it, and he has the level advantage. Tyrion able to secure it, but he has to back away, and that means that red buff is certainly going to the Nocturne. This is not a good start in terms of just clear potential for the rookie at this point.
And Karis is just pinned underneath the tower right now. Level 6s are going to be ticked for both of these mid laners, but there's no real way for Karis to head up and help out his jungler, so Jiejie's just going to be able to steal that one away and just walk this one out too. And you can see the pressure down in the bottom lane coming through for Waybo as well all of a sudden, so they've just been able to pull themselves back into this game. They're never really behind, obviously, it was very early on, but as we said, right, we're trying to celebrate WE wins when they come through, and Waybo, they snapped that one in half very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the price that Tyrion and Team W had to pay for that level 3 gank, especially when both of your buffs end up still becoming available. Sometimes it works out great, sometimes it doesn't. Tyrion certainly is on the back end of things at this point. Jiejie will be able to pick up level 6 after this wolf camp, and then all of a sudden the Nocturne ganks become even more frightening, especially with Xiaohu also having the Destiny.
And that's the thing, right? This composition out of Waybo just has so much map potential. Usually you'd expect the Pantheon and the Ahri composition to have that extra level of roam to just get involved in these lanes, but nobody's going to be moving quicker than a Nocturne and Twisted Fate. And so even if your side lanes do begin to lose a little bit to WE, that's something that Waybo can rectify very quickly for themselves, and it very much is just about getting to those level 6s, and now those have been ticked, let's see where you go, because that first ulti out of a Nocturne, that first paranoia is incredibly important. If you don't land it, if it doesn't at least get a flash, if not a kill, you can begin to slip behind a little bit on this champion. Not such a good team fighter when he's not playing from an ahead position. So Jiejie, early clears, not really looking to get too involved so far, but we'll be tracking to see where that first ulti goes.
Conversely, Tyrion, I don't think he's going to get his ultimate after even taking this Gromp. So
I mean,
it's
look
going
how
to be
far
pretty
behind
close.
he is.
If he gets it, it would be big. If not, likely not going to have it for a potential fight around the Grubs at the 8-minute mark. We'll see exactly if he has enough XP. He's going to be just short, so maybe eating a wave or something? Or no, he has the Raptor camp.
He has the Raptors. Yeah,
all
Raptors
is well in the world.
And then ulti back down to the play. Yeah, I mean, if he didn't have those Raptors coming up, it would be a little bit rough. Still, Jiejie is going to be able to get a pretty good back off right here, get some extra components into his inventory, and then head his way back down towards the bottom lane. It is a Mountain Drake as the first Drake available, and that is something that both teams, I think, would really like. You've got some tanky members, some extra survivability would be great.
Cool crowd control landing here. The Grubs are about to spawn back, taken by Tyrion as he finally unlocks his Grand Starfall. But again, for Team WE, it has been a while since they have won a game. In fact, over 2 months, as we mentioned. Last time they won a game, it was in that play-in series in Knights Rivals against LNG. There was a Krakow Kha'Zix involved in that one, and that was the win that ended up getting them into Group Ascent. But since then, 2 straight 3-0s into the playoffs, then now 11 straight game losses here in the regular season of Split 2. A lot to be desired out of Team WB, but they're sending their bot lane up here to the top side of the map, or at least Erha There's already been Jiejie starting up these grubs. Have not taken either of them just yet, but the gold card immediately lands onto Karis, and he's getting a paranoia to his demise. Another kill picked up here for Waybo, but now has gained control of the top side of the map as WE as we hit a pause. Very tenacious time for this to happen, as we'll see exactly what that issue is going to end up being.
Hopefully it's just somebody's mouse disconnected, right, and they just need to plug it back in. We'll obviously let you know as soon as we know what's going on, but whenever you get a pause directly after a team fight or a skirmish, it does worry you a little bit that maybe something's gone wrong. We'll have
Karis
to wait
pauses
and
and
see.
says, "Guys, I wasn't able to move." But it's just traditional game. Or I couldn't see anything while my vision went away. All of a sudden, there was a nocturne on my screen. What happened?
What? That's not how this game works. That'd be crazy. Yeah. No, we'll let you know, but like you said, a bit of a interesting moment to be pausing, because this is right before we're expecting to see our first proper team fight, and it's really unfortunate for WE that Karis gets caught out right there, because they're setting up on a big flank. I mean, it's a big wraparound flank that WE have invested quite a lot of time into. You see Tyrion and Erha moving up towards the top lane for ages before this play, walking slowly up, potentially looking to see if there was going to be a gank onto Zika. That doesn't manifest, so you're walking through your opponent's jungle to potentially go for this big wraparound flank, hopefully onto Jiejie, who's just taking the grubs unawares, but Karis steps too far forward, gets himself caught out, and now you're going to be in a numbers disadvantage into a fight with Waybo. I worry about the next couple of seconds for WE here.
Be a tough sequence to try to play out of after you already lost your mid laner, and you take a look at what exactly is going on there. And once the pause ended up happening, there's 3 members of WE around the grubs. You have a Scion about to collapse on you from one side. You have Destiny popped on the other side. There's no paranoia available, so not as easy to get back into things here. But when one of your strongest players at this point in the bout is stuck in the bottom lane, not necessarily a spot that W want to be in. We'll see if they're able to pick up a couple of grubs once this issue ends up being resolved. But they certainly wish they had Karis here for this exchange, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, very much so. Not having the Ahri, it's so much of your non-committal engage just gone, right? Everybody else, when they're looking to start these team fights out for you, are pretty much leaping on forwards. The only other person is just going to be Erha throwing down that tidal wave, so that's the only bit of non-committal CC you're looking for at this point. And being able to land the charm first, pull somebody away from the team, blow them up, that's a really big part of the game plan out of WE. Losing out onto that just before the team fight goes is going to be really rough, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little bit to see how this one resolves. Maybe as you're sat here, you can be thinking about what it is that you're going to be able to do to get yourself out of this sticky situation.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of information come out about what exactly this is. Of course, we will inform you as soon as we know a little bit more. But just, looks like we're back right into the swing of things here, and Cube immediately pops the all-out onto Zika. It looks like WE instead opted to go escape and retreat down towards the top side of the map. Doesn't look like it's going to work out for them just yet. In comes the Pathfinder from Cube. Takes Zika low, but he has the wild growth on top of him. Aura is already dropped, and that's going to be another 2 kills going the way of Waybo, and they don't even get a single grub off the play.
Now everything gonna go wrong right here for WE, and they just get flanked around, ganked upon, and unfortunately it's them trying for a bit of an aggressive play, pulling them out of position, and Karis dying there just snaps any hope of that play working dead in its tracks. And look at where the kills went as well, Grapes, right? You managed to get yourself a couple of kills onto Jiejie. Xiaohu obviously already had that early kill, but gets a bunch of assists, extra gold into his back pocket, and we're once again seeing that this top side of the map is just collapsing in for WE.
It's top gap in game 1. This one, the jungle certainly becoming a bit of a difference here, as Tyrion really has gotten bullied by Jiejie in this game, despite him picking up first blood with that play on the bottom side of the map. Jiejie already with that experimental hex play. Let's take another look at this one here. Karis thinks that he's safe because Jiejie's on the grubs, but they immediately snap back onto him, and then with the TF ultimate are able to re-engage very quickly.
And like you said, you've got Zika roaming down from the top side of the map, and just doesn't even really land anything, just gets in the way, is annoying. Cube ends up having to use his ulti onto him to try get out, and still ends up getting knocked up and taken down in this fight. Tyrion at least able to scramble away, still pick himself up some krugs, so it's something. It's a little bit of gold for WE. And it is rough, but Tyrion in that fight just needed to be a little bit more of snap aggressive with that play, right? He doesn't just decide to go, hey, we'll go ulti in, we'll go look for this play on the side lane. They decide to go for that long flank around the side, and maybe if Karis doesn't get caught out, it works out for them, but I do still worry that they're going to get pincered during that play, because Zika is always on the top side of that play. He will always be able to body block your exit and make it at least so much harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, and just some small micro mistakes there from Tyrion, also from Cube, trying to dash back in and finish off Zika in that 1v4 when the wild growth is still available for Hong. Definitely not ideal. I think Cube would have probably been able to get out there if he just dashed, maybe flashed away. But it's another kill going over to Waybo. They're going to be able to pick up this first dragon as well. And things have really spun in their way over these last 3 minutes. A bit of engaged here on the top side. Cube goes all out, but it's going to be the choo-choo train pop, and Zika will be back to safety.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big ulti to just be losing out on during the 1v1, but really not the end of the world, especially as your bot side of the map is still able to pick themselves up that early Drake. As we talked about, the early Mountain Drake, pretty nice overall, but things so far looking good for a Waybo that really wanted to play aggressive through their jungle early on, but this bot lane just kind of looking to sit back a bit, farm up, get themselves into a strong spot as we get later on into this game. And so far, been so good really for Elk. Yeah, he's been pushed around for a couple of moments from that early gank, but other than that has been able to just sit, keep his farming going. He's not ahead of a bout, but you don't really need to be with the Inara. You're all about what you can do once you get those 2-3 items in inventory.
And here comes those double ultimates back down towards the bottom lane. Erha is flashless and now lifeless as the TF picks up kill number 2. Waybo just able to snap engage so well with this Nocturne TF composition as they're working their way around Summoner's Rift. Now Karis is getting aggressed on by Xiaohu. He gets gold carded and forced to pop the Spirit Rush. Again, feeling like WE going a little bit too far forward in moments that they don't have to. Speaking of, Tyrion dashes in with that Grand Starfall, is unable to find out.
And that's such an unfortunate set of plays to watch back-to-back where the Paranoia lands, finds some effectiveness for Waybo. And for WE, it just does not work out for them. Tyrion hasn't been able to land those Grand Starfalls so far, and this whole matchup is just feeling so incredibly lopsided. Remember, these are the bottom 2 teams that we have here in Group Ascend, and there feels like there's just a massive canyon between the skill gap.
If you're not able to beat this team, not sure who else they're going to be able to beat, as WE have made their way around Group Ascend.
Great.
So far have yet to find results. Yeah, what's up?
You know that the answer for who they're going to beat is BLG. One random game.
That's the way the LPL always works.
Yep.
That is true.
Okay,
what's not working here is Cube. As
nope.
Elk and Hong suddenly surprise him. Oh, nice flash away. Gonna force the flash of Elk, but he finally gets on the board, and it's really all Waybo at this point. 4,500 is the gold lead. And now Tyrion is going to try and defend this tier 1, but not going to be much he can do at this point.
Yeah, just about going to be able to stop this one from having any more plates go down, and Elk having to flash for that kill could potentially be impactful, especially when he doesn't have that Transcend self available. Really quite a squishy immobile champion without those 2 tools in inventory, but his ulti will be back in a second, and his flash in a little while as well. We've got 2 minutes until the next Drake is going to spawn, but with all of these champions coalescing up towards the top side, and less than a minute until the Herald pops up, could potentially see a fight around this objective, although I'm not so sure that WE want to go for a big fight at this point. I don't know that they can.
Yeah, looking around, like, oh, maybe this person can pop off. No, I don't think so. Karis about only with that singular item spike for about specifically. Gonna want to see at least a little bit more, maybe that upgraded Muramana before things really start to hurt a bit more on this champion. So WE just trying to play the farm game at this point, and it's going to be okay for Waybo too. They scale rather nicely. They have a Scion, they have a Yunara. That's typically things that do well in the later portions of a game.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of different tools to potentially be able to play around. For WE, I mean, down nearly 5,000 gold at 15 minutes in the game. It looked so promising at the start of the last game, and with that early gank, the Tyrion was able to get through, but Karis getting caught out really did snap a lot of that in half. Obviously, the Herald is up and available, and WBG, they've got a good few members in the area right now, and lots of these roaming ultis available to them as well. for WE. If anybody steps a little bit too far forwards, they're just going to get taken out, and you can see it's causing WE to play quite far back. Some resets coming on through, so items at least completed for the WE members, but this Herald already well down below half HP.
Tyrion has ulti, but it'd be very dangerous for Team WE to go for a play, but it looks like that's going to be their call. Waybo is forced back a little bit, but then they're suddenly going to re-engage with the Destiny Stun. Found onto Erha, but Xiaohu immediately gets jumped on by Tyrion. Teleport comes in from Cube, as Zika will look to use that choo-choo train instead. Unstoppable Onslaught already being popped. Herald at 58 HP to get stolen by the wild cards of Xiaohu. Oh, that is unfortunate for WE, but the eye is still available, and now it's WE trying to box Waybo out to make sure they cannot pick up the Herald. In goes Cube with the all-out in tow, but he's unable to find any more damage. Charm does land onto Hong, but he has enough HP and had his flash still available, so he will not go down.
I don't think anybody was able to grab themselves the Herald in that situation either. No, it was stolen away by Xiaohu, but he wasn't actually able to step up into the pit and grab that one. And with nobody dying either, I mean, that's just a whole lot of nothing that ends up going on through, but I would still say that WE come out on top of that fight, because look at the summoner spells right here. That is 3 flashes blown during that team fight. You also don't have Elk's flash available at the moment, so it's just Hung with that one up, and with the Drake fight coming right now, WBG, they've kind of used everything that they really had available to them in that previous fight, and they are going to struggle a bit to step up. Well, they should. Looks like W are actually just going to concede this one.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a lot of tools available. Actually, they do have
a
decent amount. Maybe they just didn't think that last fight was up to snuff. So they're going to just back away, let this one go over. This was, in general, a win for WE because they didn't get kills.
I get the idea of the paranoia into ulti from Xiaohu to try to get himself in, but he does it like directly on top of Erha, who just bubbles him instantly. But
he just not have smite. Yeah, it's like completely off of cooldown right now.
I'm completely baffled about the way that one went down, and the fact that nobody ends up picking up the Herald, I think, is the funniest possible outcome that we could have seen right there. And WBG picking themselves up that Drake just continues that Drake stacking for them. 5,000 gold in the advantage at the moment. And second items beginning to come on through. That's now going to be the Lich Bane completed. 7 stacks on that rower as well. Xiaohu is very strong at the moment and continuing to just exert his pressure both in the mid lane and across the rest of the map.
So Shelly gets a well-deserved break, but these teams do not, as mid lane fighting already erupting again. Ow. You see Elk with that Q finally upgraded, is able to do a decent chunk of damage with that Kraken Slayer. Only will become scarier as this game goes on.
Yeah, and this is just going to get worse and worse as we move further on into this game, as you said, right? The Corki, it's strong in lane. Corki Nami, really good laning duo, but they weren't able to really get too much going beyond that early initial fight. Tyrion and Karis now pairing up together, looking to play onto the mid lane. Elk and Han, if they step a bit too far forwards, they could get instantly jumped on. Elk does have his flashback available, though, and yeah, WE just can step a bit too far forwards with their bot lane and scare the bot off. Flash out of Han, at least.
Small win, but what's the retaliation now for Waybo? In goes the Paranoia and the Destiny again, and About already has no mana and is chunked very low. Grand Starfall comes in. A nice wild growth will prevent the stun from going forward onto Tyrion, and he is forced to back away as well. WBG lose nobody, and now a Transcended Elk is still looking to poke, still looking to prod, still looking to harass WE out of their own jungle, and they will take advantage of the mid lane control.
Xiaohu as well, just constantly stepping on forwards. This is the thing, anytime you try to make a play happen for WE, Waybo, they can rotate across the map that much faster, and they're just bullying here onto this mid lane tower with the charm going wide. There's no hope of a kill being picked up for WE. And now just every time WE try to step up, try to make something happen, you just get curtailed time and time again.
See the amount of pressure that is able to be exerted by somebody like Xiaohu. As Karis going for a deep teleport, looking for Xiaohu here. The tier 1 turret still is available, but I don't know if Waybo know that this TP has come through. Tyrion and Karis are going to look for the Twisted Fate. Xiaohu already burns the flash. A little bit more damage is necessary, but they're too scared to go under with Xiaohu having the gold card in hand, and so that will just be a lot of resources burned for just the flash out of the Twisted Fate.
The flash out of the Twisted Fate is at least something, right? The flash gold card is one of those potential tools that Weibo have been playing around, but they always respond on the other side of the map.
Yes, Newton's Law. There's the reaction on the other side of the map. It's about is easily taken down by Jiejie. Hong, the one able to pick up the final proc of gold. And Elk actually takes one final turret shot and will go down to the Pantheon. That's a big shutdown into the hands of the rookie jungler of Team WE. So 1-for-1 so far after a small mistake from the superstar AD carry of a Waybo. But all things considered, they're still feeling very comfortable how this game's going.
And this has been what we have seen from Weibo, where they've been finding some pretty good fights, some nice moments out of Jiejie specifically, and out of Xiaohu, but Elk been having a bit of a weird split, getting a bit too aggressive.
Karis also dashes forward. That's a big shutdown onto Jiejie. They're going to get Hong as well. He has no flash. It's another shutdown. Going the way of Team WE. That is exactly the answer that they needed, and maybe Weibo feeling a little bit too confident with themselves.
There we go, a couple thousand gold are pulled back the other way. This is the thing, right? As much as we can talk about WE being down and out, they've got a couple of champions that can just instantly burst you out, and the charm landing there from Karis is going to be nice. It was nearly a 6,000 gold lead, so they do pull things back in their favor a little bit, and that's a really critical injection of gold at such a good moment for them. 40 seconds until the next Drake is going to be spawning, and so they're able to head back to base, spend that gold, get second items completed onto a couple of key roles, and come back out onto the map significantly stronger than they were.
Could this be the comeback of all comebacks? Remember last year, Bloxxer, when WB were winning games? They were never ordinary by any sense of the word, right?
Absolutely.
It was open nexuses, turnarounds, big throws by the opposition. Maybe some of that magic has to reemerge. Remember, it started with a new jungler coming in. It was not Monki who initially started the split with the team. But once he came in, that was the difference maker. And maybe Tyrion can be that here for his new team as Monki takes a bit of a breather in the middle of Split 2. We have this Chemtech Dragon available. It'll be soul point here for Waybo. And so WE certainly want to try to contest this after maybe a little bit of additional confidence after winning that last fight. Zika going forward very aggressively. They won't be able to find too much more. It'll just be the Dragon started up with full vision control in the hands of Waybo.
We've got an empowered blast cone right here to try to get involved.
The one who takes it. Dragon is being tickled at this point. 4,500 HP. Knock up from the decimating smash finds about Tyrion, but nobody wants to fully burst down the Dragon at this point. Pathfinder away from Cube. We matched by the unstoppable onslaught. In goes Karis over the wall, but he whiffs the charm. In goes the darkness, and Paranoia will allow for Jiejie to most likely secure this Dragon. But the fight will be big on the other side for WE if they can land a couple of combos. In goes the Transcendence from Elk. He's forced to now dash away, and Karis is still hunting, but unable to find anything. Stun lands onto Cube. He gets McHale's away. Decimating smash does find about again, but they won't be able to find anything more off of it. And so Weibo Gaming go in, they take the Dragon, and they get out without anybody going down.
You can see the power of the poke from WE, but they're just not quite able to find those full-on engages. Karis missing that charm at the end of the fight, critical. If he hits that one, you might be able to just press the go button and make something happen. Instead, you give soul point over to Weibo, and a bunch more gold for them to head back to base with and come back out onto the rest of the map. Now, the Baron is going to be the next big thing to play around, and for WE, you can't be late to these team fights. With a poke composition like this, being early to a team fight, getting to set up beforehand and not push your way in from the darkness is going to help them out and potentially open them up to win one of these fights.
And another tough fight from Karis, I have to say. I think he missed 3 charms in that one, not finding a single target. And if any of those ended up hitting, could have been a difference maker here. You see about able to pump out a lot of damage on this Corki throughout that team fight. 4,000. He now has 2 completed items with the Muramana completed. Was not enough here for a kill to happen, and now Tyrion going to be targeted by the unstoppable onslaught of Zika. Tyrion trying to get away with the blast cone, sends him to the river, and the river is where he will fall. Elk with the empowered laser gets kill number 2.
Now, is that going to be Baron right here for Waybo, the enemy jungler, down for 40 seconds, and they have themselves a pretty quick Baron take as well. The rotation is going to come through still. There's a bit of push going on in the mid lane from WE, attempting to establish some control. And with Cube on the bot side with a teleport available, they can still potentially try to stop this one from going on over.
But they barely burned anything for that kill onto Tyrion, which means all the ultimates for Waybo are available with the exception of the Transcendence on Elk. The Baron is already at 5k. Darkness has fallen over Summoner's Rift. And the gold card lands onto Karis. Cube jumps in, trying to find a miracle steal, but it gets secured by Jiejie, and Waybo are now wearing purple. Tidal Wave finds 2. They're waiting to buy enough time for Tyrion to arrive, and Cube is taking up a lot of damage at this point. Pops the all out onto Jiejie. He's forced to flash up with the wild growth on top of him, and about is stunned by the gold card. He's certainly in trouble as well, and Karis and Cube are now stuck in the Baron pit, and that's where Cube will eventually go down. Tyrion jumps over the wall, trying to save his top laner, but it is a one-way trip for the Pantheon. Elk, untouched, gets another one in his back pocket, and Waybo get the Baron and a whole lot more.
I mean, what else can they grab right here, right? All of them in purple at this point. Some resets coming on through, but the majority of the members from Weibo going to come out of that team fight perfectly healthy and able to push onto the mid and top lane simultaneously. 25 seconds until anybody with the wave clear is going to be back up and available, and this is going to be a push in all 3 lanes.
It perhaps seemed like a desperate play from WE, but desperation has all they have known here in split number 2. They have come close to wins, even game 1 being an example, but this has certainly not been close by any stretch.
About is doing whatever he can, so is Erha, landing a good tidal wave right there, but with the threat of the gold card, About is constantly having to sit quite far back, gets stunned up here, and is lucky to be able to flash back away. The problem is, watch Karis throughout these plays, he is just missing everything.
Speaking of Karis!
Oh, speaking! Oh, no.
Welcome back, Yellow Star, to the LPL. Unlucky there for Karis off of that teleport. They're still going to try to make a play here onto Zika, but this is a tanky Sion that they're dealing with, and there's a lot of members of Waybo waiting to follow up and retaliate. Cube getting bursted down as Elk has transcended and looking to finish off this game, finish off this series. He dashes forward for a kill and will get a second on to the Ahri. Zika still so tanky as he was the one who was engaged on first, but Elk still having none of it. He dashes forward. He gets a triple kill.
Yo,
this could end up being a whole lot more. A quadra, a penta. No, it's stolen away. Oh, Xiaohu.
No.
Would have given Elk his moment, but instead ends up stealing the spotlight. Not going to matter at all for Waybo, though. 18-4, 27 minutes in. They're going to march down the mid lane and claim this series with a clean 2-0.
You can see the big smile right there on Xiaohu and Elk's faces, right? They know what's up. Elk with a little smirk. It's all good in the end. It's going to be a 2-0 right here for Waybo, and WE's woes continue. I mean, there was nothing there for them in that game.
18 straight losses. Bloxxer, you and I are both fans of the NFL. There's 17 games in that season.
Yep.
If a team fails to win any of them, that's like historic, right?
You go down in infamy.
Those are trash bags being put on to their
Yep.
heads. I don't see any trash bags in Sion right now, but it's feeling pretty grim for WE at this point. Shout out to Waybo. They get their first win, but there's still a lot to be left desired from the gameplay that we saw out of Team WE.
If I'm now thinking about you and the Cleveland Browns in the same thought, things are not going well. Things are not going well for you at that point, and yeah, really, really rough. Not exactly the outing Tyrion would have hoped from his LPL main stage debut. I thought he had some fun moments, though. I would still like to give him a few flowers. Those early ganks, right? Before the point at which your solo lanes start losing. I liked the way he was playing. Obviously, he did kind of get red with that early gank down on the bottom lane. Ended up falling behind by about 30 CS. So there's stuff to improve upon. But hey, he was not getting just kicked around. I wouldn't put this game on his head.
Well, yeah. I think all things considered, there's a lot more people that you can blame than the rookie jungler playing in his first ever stage games in the LPL. Had a really fun game 1, and I think the biggest thing is being able to see that he's not afraid to, go for plays, make things happen. Even if they are the wrong plays and end up costing the team, that's better than somebody sitting around doing nothing, especially out of the jungle position. That's what Monki was able to do. Of course, he struggled at the start of his career, able to turn things around. We'll see if that happens here for Tyrion and for Team WE, because right now, 0-6 is not where you want to be.
I mean, looking at the remaining games that you've got right here out of WE, and we'll focus in on Waybo in a second, but let's just wrap WE up right here. The next games that they've got for themselves is AL, BLG, TES,
They got Jiejie later this week too, I think. So that's the last game out of the first round robin for them.
Next, yeah. JDG,
it's the only team they haven't played
JDG
yet.
Games.
And it's a team that went to first hand, so...
Yeah. There's something, right? There's potentially potentially a win there. As I said, I think they're going to get a win off of BLG or TES, just like the world's worst game of League of Legends that we see out of BLG or TES, where they just lose their minds for one game. It happens pretty consistently. It might not happen, though, at this point for WE, and it will be interesting to see what happens when we get into that play-in stage, whether or not they're going to be able to beat one of those Group Nirvana teams, because, again, EDG, LNG, even Thundertalk to some extent, looking pretty scary at the moment. But who knows? For Weibo, this is awesome. This is what we expected, right? If you lose the WE, that sends far more alarm bells ringing than winning versus WE sort of like sets you up for success. But they needed a turnaround, and being able to pick up that first series win for themselves versus IG, nearly beat JDG as well, and then 2-0ing versus WE. This may be them swinging back into form towards the back half of this split.
There's, I believe, 50 total teams in Tier 1 League of Legends. Only 2 of them have yet to win a single map in Split 2. Those 2 teams are Ultra Prime, who have only played 1 series so far, and that was against Thundertalk, and Team WE, who are now 0-6, 0-12 in match score. Every other team has taken a game except for them. As for Waybo, as you mentioned, good showing from them. Elk finally kind of getting that monkey off of his back onto the Yunara, had a great performance on that, but the top side really were the ones to tell the story of this game. If I had to give a player of the game, it would probably go to Jiejie, just off of how hard he was able to punish Tyrion after making that initial play, right? I mean, Tyrion able to have a good start, pick up first blood in both of the series, but it's how Waybo were able to respond to that in this game specifically out of Jiejie that I think warrants him the player of the game.
I think there's a sneaky look at Zika as well for a player of the game. He was just taking up so much space. He was constantly landing really good ultis. Those knockups as well were massive, and it was really setting up the other champions in the game to really be able to play unlocked. But I do agree, I think JJ was looking great, and JJ, even in their losses, has been sort of the main focus. It's been the bot lane that's been faltering a little bit. It's been Zika finding a couple of losses in his lane matchups that's been hurting them overall, and JJ has been that sort of calming force, that big player for them, and to see him play such a good game right here has been great, because I love the champion diversity that he brings. As we spoke about coming into today, he had played the most champions of any of the junglers. He's not really added any new ones in today, right? Played a couple of the same champions once again, but showing that he can just be consistent on some of these top tier picks and play a lot of different styles is really good for Weibo's ability to draft, and especially once you think about once we move out of these best of 3s and into the best of 5s later on.
Oh, unfortunate for Elk, but that was probably the only mistake he made the entire game, if you have to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, for Waybo, a good start to the week. Again, they're starting to pick up momentum after their 0-3 beginning to Split 2. They took the win up against IG, they played a very close series against JDG, and then now took care of business, you could say, against Team WE, who's down towards the bottom of the barrel. Next up for them will be Anyone's Legend. That will be on Saturday. If they can get that game, or at least make it competitive, I think that's a good showing that all of a sudden Waybo could be back.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've talked about, right, Waybo are the sort of team that both ramp up throughout individual splits and ramp up throughout the entire year. And, you know, last split was okay for them, right? It started off pretty slow. They started getting better later on. Same kind of thing potentially right here. If they're able to string a couple of good victories back to back, they're going to be in a really good spot to just at least get them into competition with the ALs and the JDGs and the IGs of the world, I'd argue, and put them in a spot where, hey, maybe you are competing for that 4th spot. If you're able to compete for that 4th spot right here, all of a sudden you skip having to do that play, and you skip having to go and bother with one of those teams down in Group Nirvana. You get some extra rest as well. I mean, the League of Legends split is long, and the LPL teams play a lot of games. Any bit of rest, any bit of just being able to see your opponents play, always helpful.
More games, the better. That's why Group Ascend, it's nice that they have the double round robin. You know, you get to really ramp up towards the end of the season. We saw that with BLG in Split 1. They had a bit of a slower start, then really were able to turn on the jets at the end of the year. We'll see if a team like Waybo is able to do that, or a team like WE, right? There's still a little bit of time for that to be determined. We have our updated standings just to take a look at where things are at as well. As Waybo, I think they climb ahead into 6th place for the moment. Nope, just barely behind. They have more, game wins than AL, but an extra loss in there is going to hurt them a bit.
Yeah, but once this all evens out, that could be a critical win overall for WE. if you're a WE fan, I'd be looking away. The fact that they haven't been able to win a single game, as we've been talking about, is really rough. And I mean, going on into the next couple of games for WE, we'll keep tracking what's going on with that kill participation for Cube, because if it continues to be this bad, if he continues to not get involved at all, is this the single... I can't even say single least impactful, because he certainly is having an impact for his team. It's just not a good one. It's been insane. It's at least there's some fun subplots to watch when WE play, even if you're not really expecting these big wins out of them.
Yeah, you know, not a great start to split number 2 for Cube. We felt like maybe he was turning things around a little bit in group perseverance, but it perhaps was just the strength of the opponent that they were, you know, facing off against, rather than, you know, the team that they ended up being alongside. So for Team WE, I set on the future again for them. Doesn't necessarily matter what they do in the regular season at this point. They're probably going to be locked into one of those bottom 2 seeds. So for them, if they just are able to win that first game, or just, you know, prepare themselves for that Knights rival series against a group Nirvana team or 2, could be you know, a little bit better for them.
It could be. It could be. I'm trying to find positive things to be able to say for WE, and it's rough, right? It is really rough out here, and you got to feel for the players' mentals as well. I can understand why Monki felt the need to take a step back right here. If your team is just not able to get anything going, and especially for these junglers who I think are trying their absolute best, when they've been able to find success, it's been because these junglers have been flinging themselves at their opponents, just trying to outpace their opponent, get something going. If that's never working out, if you don't have solo lanes to play around, if your bot lane are doing well but not well enough to be able to play around, it's frustrating, it's difficult for these junglers. So I really hope, just for WE's sake, that they're able to pick up some individual game wins, even if it's not series, a game here or there, just to be able to taste that victory. And, you know, as you said about Elk and getting that Monki off of their back, same thing here. Not
going to be the easiest task, as they have really struggled so far, but for Waybo, it's a good sign for them as they pick up their first 2-0 of the spring split and get themselves up to 2-4 in the Group Ascend standings. That's going to do it for our coverage here of Series 1. Bloxxer, a pleasure as always, but our time has come to a close. We've got Ninjas in Pajamas going up against Anyone's Legend next. We'll have K-Man in to replace you, and for us on the play-by-play side, taking a little trip down the 405, and we'll have Slayer on the call next.